Hi and welcome again. Now we're going to work on the steering today. We're going to do step 24 and step 25. These B11s simply push into the B12, so I've already done that because you need pliers and it's a little bit painful to do, but they're done. Now when you do this, you've got to be careful. You have to look at that drawing. There's a little minus sign and that line is just that there. So once you've got that at the bottom, you can then go ahead and put this MB1 screw, which is 3x12. Send that in. And I'll do the same on this side now. Same thing again, minus sign at the bottom, this one can come at the top. Another screw. And then we have step 24 is done. So we'll now go off onto the actual car itself. I'll hold my screwdriver to the side, turn this way, and move this up a little bit. That'll make it a little bit easier. What I have now is an MB3, which will need greasing just at the top here. Goes through the shaft here. We'll get an MB6 washer that will go underneath, and this part here will screw onto the body at the frame itself. You've got to make sure it's fully moving, because if you over tighten it, you will have a problem. Then take MB1 and this will go on here and at the second hole of the hub, just that one there. It's still nice and free. We need the steering to be nice and free. One turning, and I'm happy with that. So I'll do the same on the other side. There's the MB3 again. A little bit of grease just around the bolt shaft. again it goes through, and you've got to make sure the minus sign is facing down. Get this washer, an MB6 goes through. That's the hole on the body, and that's where we've got to screw this into, just that hole right there. Nice and free. The last screw, an MB1, that we put onto the hub there, and that will bring right. I'm happy because now the steering's nice and free. I can feel the steering moving. I can't see any friction in any direction. The drives in Intel, they're moving when you turn the prop. Overall, I'm really happy so far. There's one little step left, which is to put a sponge tape just in there, which I believe is about here, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fit this until I've got the servo and everything ready to go on, so that way I can be 100% sure that that's where I want it to be. It does look like that's where it's supposed to be, but I'd still like to be sure. Now we're going to do step 26, which is the actual electrics in the radio. Now all the radios are different depending on what speed controller you're using, whether it's brushed or brushless. If you're going to use brushless, then you'll be using all 3 wires, and if it was a censored motor, you'd be putting a sensor wire just in there. But what I'm going to do is just run it on a brushed motor, which is what we've been provided with, which is the torque tuned motor right there. And now the next step after step 26 is the steering servo. Now this is a brand new steering servo, but we've got to be sure that it's centralized. What you don't want to do is fit a steering servo and then find out that it's at the wrong angle. So now what we're going to do is switch it on. Switch on the remote, and all I need to do is turn it right, left a couple of times. Now that's centralized, and I know that steering servo is perfect. I can now go ahead, disconnect it, and put it onto the car. So now we've checked the electrics and made sure that the servo is nice and central. Everything is set there properly. We're happy. We'll now go off to the next step, which is to connect the servo arm. Now on the servo arm you can see there's different types of screws, and the best way to know which one your servo takes, it could be any one of these, but in my case it was MC5. And the way to know is to put it and make it go in. It's got to go as far in as you can. You can see I've practically taken the whole screw in. If I was to use a different screw, it wouldn't go in because the thread is different. So now we'll start fitting the servo into place, and see I'm following that drawing there, and I'm holding the servo in this direction, which means that the end product, this should end up in that way. To make it go in that way, you've got that ridge there. Now this part here, D11, you've got two choices on D11. You can see there's two, and I've purposely brought two out. One of the two fits mine, and the reason is that this particular servo here, if you look at this outside, it's like a threaded part there, and this part here has got the same thread, so we've got to be sure that it fits. It doesn't fit, you see. That means that this is not the right one, so we wouldn't be using that, we'd use this one. But if you had a different servo, and if that fitted, then that's the one that you would use, and it should go in nice and easy. But you should, once it's in, you should not be able to turn that in any direction. Now we've got that in, we get the P5. In my future video we'll be talking about this, because this is a Servo Saver, and the reason behind it and the way it works, it's something that I'll be making a different video for. But it's a very good idea, and it's a simple design, but it actually saves the servo from breaking when you crash. So that's the servo horn installed. This screw being a fine thread screw, what we really need to do is start the screw off first as we go in. I'm now going to get my screwdriver and torque it down. Now you can thread lock that screw, but I wouldn't recommend doing that right now. We need the car running, and we need to be sure that everything is okay. But yeah, in time you can thread lock that screw. If you thread lock the screw, you want to use a semi-hard lock thread, not the super tight. I will put something on my channel to let you know what thread lock we should be using. So now step 26 is done, and we are on to steps 27. Step 27 is I'll put all the screws in the right place. You can see there's a difference in the screws, and different in colour and also size, but I used the manual to show me, to make sure I can make sure I've got the correct screws in the right place. And we've got two washers. So we'll get A12 and we'll get MC3, which is this one here, and a washer. Get the washer into the screw and get this in. Do the same on the other side. Right, we've got the two A12s fitted. We'll now go over to these arms and fit the arms in. And to fit the arms, what I need is on this page here, MB1. So I'll start and I'll make it easier. I will fit that screw in there first. So I'll build that up here. Bring it over onto the servo, and if you look at the drawing, it actually shows this part on the outside and this on the inside. I get my screw in through this side here. Now we've got this part ready, we can put that to one side and make our way and bring the chassis over. Nope, yeah, I'm gonna leave the chassis right there and start with this here, which is a lot of screws. Is the easiest way to explain it. It's a lot of screws. You can see I'm using the manual and it's helping me position my screws in the correct place. So first thing I want to do is put this in that direction and connect the top cover, which is this here, over and get MC3. MC3 is this black screws here. That's one. What I like to do is get all the screws in a little bit and then tighten them all at once. Right, so now we've got them in, our next thing is to get the on-off switch, which is from the speed controller. I'm going to get the on-off switch on here. It says off in that direction, on in this direction. So now that we've removed the transport screws, we put this take the plate off. And get this over on that side. Now get the, I'll just leave that to here for a minute and I'll get the screws ready. We'll start with the first screw. Get the second one again, MC6, MC9. It's getting a bit cluttered on my desk, but you can see it on your manual. A little tip when you're doing this, keep this screw loose. If you tighten this too much, you won't be able to get to the hole on the other side. Now that I've got this one in and this one, I can now tighten this one first, tight, and then come over to this side and tighten this. Right, so that's done. Now we're going to go off to lowering this housing onto the body itself. So we need MB1, screw and MA2. So take this off. It looks like I have put an extra screw on. So I'll get this in. Again, I'm not going to tighten it, I'm going to leave it loose. And we'll get onto this one, which is MB1 3x12, which is the long screw, and that will fit in here. So we've got the two screws in, we've got this in. Now that screw that I took out to put this in, that screw should have gone in there, in that little hole there. So I'm now going to replace it with the correct screw. And that's in. So our next thing is to get MS3s. So now the next thing we're going to do is we've got these MA3 countersunk screws. The first one is going to go in for the aerial remote. I might not use this, but I'm going to put it in for now, because I'll probably be using the receiver box. This is the hole. This one's a bit tricky. You can see I use a smaller screwdriver just to start things off. It's so much easier using a smaller screwdriver to start things like this off first. I'm going to leave that tab loose, and the reason I'm going to leave it loose is I have to put the wire for the antenna to go through that, which is this grey wire here. So once I've done the receiver box, I'll be able to send that through and up inside. Once I've got that in, then I can tighten it down even more. But for now, we can now go ahead and fit the steering servo, which is this one here. next step now is to get these steering arms connected to the servo, and to do that we need MB4, which is a screw with a slight shaft in there, and they have to be greased. So we just add a bit of grease in there, and that should be more than enough. Again, you can see I've started the screw, but I'm not gonna tighten it fully until I've got. Now I've got both of them in, I can go ahead and torque them down. Okay, now on step 28 it says that you've got two options. One is we can directly mount the speed controller and the radio receivers directly on there, or you can use a receiver box, and that's what I'm planning on doing now. So I'll go ahead and do that and then come back when it's all done, because there isn't really much on there apart from putting double-sided tape down and putting this and 4 of these screws. So I'll see you in a little while.